Bearcat Blitz rolling along right here on the late week edition. We are ready to preview BYU, and I'm your host, Russ Heltman, your All Bearcats reporter. Catch us on allbearcats.com. Welcome in my co-host, Dominic Goodman, former UC wide receiver, played for the team from 2005 to 2008, in the top 10 of many UC wide receiver record statuses, and been great with us over the past 3-4 weeks. We're already a third of the way through the season, Dom. 2-2 record on the season for the UC Bearcats, getting ready to take on the BYU Cougars. And you're, of course, listening to Bearcat Blitz wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you get your YouTube videos. Of course, you can find this one on Talking Cats YouTube channel with Russ Heltman. And you can also find us on Bally Sports Ohio throughout each and every fall weekend with Bearcats football in full swing. Please subscribe, review the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It'll help us grow the show and continue to do the Bearcat Blitz the right way. Dom, we're in the middle of game week, a short, condensed game week for UC football. We're going to get into the just entire game preview, what to expect from Cincinnati as they travel to face the BYU Cougars. The BYU team also Cincinnati started their Big 12 home tenure last weekend. The BYU fans excited to get their Big 12 tenure started with their first Big 12 home game this coming weekend. Should be a very raucous environment. And Dom, all four teams new to the Big 12 looking for their first win this weekend as a member of the conference.
Yeah, it's going to be everybody, each team, BYU going to be hungry. UC hungry already with two losses this back-to-back losses. So they're looking for the hungry to get a win. So I think it's going to be a good game. BYU is a good team, historically known to play good football. And I think it's going to be a good game. I just can't wait to see it.
We'll get into the preview after the midway point here of the show, after we get to some mid-show ads and good stuff right there. Make sure we can keep the lights on here on Bearcat Blitz. I'm, of course, your host, Russ Heltman, and he is Dominic Goodman, former UC wide receiver. UC wide receiver who, correct me if I'm wrong here, Dom, but you obviously cross paths a little bit with the Kelce brothers, who are in full news cycles right now. Travis Kelce shoots his shot with Taylor Swift a couple months ago on his podcast. One thing leads to another. She's in the freaking suite with Donna Kelce this past Sunday, watching Travis and the Chiefs destroy the Chicago Bears. We're not going to dive into that tabloid story too much on this one, but I wanted to get, Dom, just the first thing you think of when you think of the Kelce brothers, if there's any stories you have from those days, just going from where they were as a brotherly duo when you first knew them to where they are now. It's got to be like an eye-opening experience for you to be like, wow, this has been quite the 15-year run for this pair of brothers.
Oh, man. Well, first of all, Travis always had that Riz game. So, you know what I mean? I already expected, as soon as I heard he shot his shot, I'm like, oh, it's already over. He like Steph Curry. He gonna hit. So, but my experience with the Kelces was great, man. I mean, Jason came in as a linebacker, walk-on linebacker. Came in, worked hard. I mean, he was a guy that just put in a lot of work. He just a workaholic. And I remember when we needed O-line at the time. I was going into my junior year. We needed some O-linemen, and he stepped up to it, jumped in, and he ran with it and did a great job. And continue on. You can see his success now. And even with Travis came in as a quarterback. So I remember the first ball he threw me, it went straight to the dirt because I don't know. I guess he was nervous. I don't know what was going on, but he threw it straight to the dirt. So he was just there when he was a freshman. So
right.
So he kind of just really just worked through. And he when I came back, I found out he was a tight end, and I remember even going to went to the Belk Bowl to check him out, watch him play. And I remember after the Belk Bowl, that's the game where Kelce scored the game-winning touchdown against Duke. And he came to me afterwards like, yeah, I'm about to be like fourth, fifth round. I'm like, really? Like, I didn't even know. Like, because it's like you don't think about those things because you're just so much with your teammates. You aren't thinking about the outside stuff. You're just thinking like, how you been doing? How's everything going? Great game. And he told me that. And then I started seeing his progression because he wasn't even the starter. as a tight end, you had Ben Gaduli, you had Adrian Robertson, and that was in front of him. And once he got to the league, he just took off with it because I expected it because he's no different from his brother. Good work ethic, love the game, and it's just great to see them both to really basically have Hall of Fame careers in the NFL. They're doing fantastic with their podcast and everything. I'm happy for them, and it's great for UC Bearcats. And maybe, shoot, he can get Taylor Swift to do a concert at UC or something, you know. But I'm just happy.
That's an
and
idea.
I'm glad. And I just wish the best for them, man, and just continue what they're doing.
No doubt. Definitely want to get Dom's thoughts on that because you cross paths with for sure, and it's all the world's kind of coming together in one weekend, 1 4-day stretch over the past week or so. And we're coming together courtesy in large part thanks to Bet Online during this show. Football is back, and Bet Online is your number one information source for all your sports wagering info with all the up-to-minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals from the NFL and college football at your fingertips with Bet Online's real-time updates on statistics, news, and odds. From week 1 all the way to the college football playoff and Super Bowl, Bet Online gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And speaking of Bet Online, that number been moving substantially, Dominic, in this UC Bearcats BYU matchup. Cincinnati was an underdog when I went to bed last night, and when I woke up this morning, the Bearcats were favored. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But one more thing I wanted to touch on. Well, two more things, because we need to give this guy his flowers for a nice outing against Oklahoma this past weekend. But day one ready, Dom. I'm sure you as an alum have heard about this campaign, and everybody who kind of is around UC Athletics has heard about it. The Day One Ready campaign, the goal of getting $100 million in athletic donations ahead of the entry into the Big 12. They didn't quite get it done ahead of the entry into the Big 12, but very close to that expected date. And they announced, UC Athletics did, courtesy of Zach Stipe, the associate AD for communications, said that they have hit the $100 million mark, and Dom, they're 70% complete with the funding goals for that indoor performance center that's going to be accessed by students all over campus, sports all over campus, and most namely, the permanent all-weather home year-round for UC football. That's got to be an exciting thing for you to hear as an alum, that this kind of funding, this kind of excitement is getting matched with dollars behind it.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a step in the right direction. You know, when I got there, the spot was the CRC. That was more of like, because the Lender Center kind of connected to there, so you can walk over there to there. You got your recreational stuff going on. You got the swimming pools. You got the lifting for the students, and all that does is having it in the one spot. Now, students and athletes can come together and get to know each other and kind of sort of have that support, you know, and to have that big facility like that, man, it's going to be great. Athletes don't got to go too much. Don't got to walk too far anywhere. Because back in my time, everything was just getting built. So I don't know anybody know about the Edwards building. That used to be our athletic building, was the Edwards. And we had to take that walk from Turner and then take the walk to practice. But now you get a chance to just really just be at one spot, don't got to go nowhere, and everything's good. So I'm excited, and I can't wait to see it revealed.
Yeah, definitely don't need to get your extra steps in if you're a football player, for sure. Especially a week like this, short week, going to BYU, that altitude, which UC has had to deal with in the past. And UC held a lead the last time they went to BYU, Dom. I believe they did, going into the fourth quarter. The wearing down takes an effect. The altitude takes an effect. You start getting tired. UC ends up, I'm pretty sure, losing that last contest to BYU at BYU by double digits because of that lack of kind of stamina and depth an issue for this UC team. And we'll dive into that after the break when we get into our full preview and prediction for this game on Friday night, which is nip tuck in that betting line. Mason Fletcher, though, final point here before we get to the break, and then we'll touch on the betting numbers with the preview all wrapped in one. Mason Fletcher earns a spot this week on the Ray's 8 award list. Really, really cool honor for Mason Fletcher, a guy who was a finalist for the Ray Guy Award in 2022. He's averaging I believe a career high, or no, it was a season high, 48.2 yards average on 4 punts against Oklahoma. He pinned the Sooners inside the 12-yard line 3 times, and he holds the 6th best active punting average in the entire country in his UC career with 44.7 yards per boot. The special teams guys, they don't get a lot of media love. They don't get a lot of pub, Dominic, but it was so clear how much of an effect and how much of a boost Mason Fletcher gave this defense and the offense in that respect, with their inability to move the ball at points in that game, some breathing room to be able to keep that game close.
Yeah, I think special teams is overlooked by everybody. Coach Combs is my coach in high school. He always said special teams win your games. You can lose by special teams, you can win with special teams, and that's true. And as a punter, you really you help the defense out tremendously, changing that field. To give the Oklahoma offense, you can't give them short field. You give them short field, they're gonna score. And that's what he did. He gave them. They had long possessions. They had to do long drives just to get a field goal or any points. I just know it's kind of funny because people don't appreciate it when you coach in high school, you coach in middle school, any lower level you coach, and you got to come down to punt. And let's say we had an incident. It's 4th and 2. You like, man, we can go for it, but you want to change the field, and then your punter punts. It's a 10-yard kick. So you
Right.
like, God, dog. And
what do we even do it for? What was the point?
So when you get, in college and NFL, it's more appreciated because you got these guys that can boot it 60 yards, 70 yards, and change that field and give that defense more of a chance to make a stop.
Mason Fletcher, he's a weapon. He's a definite weapon with that Australian foot powering this punting attack from UC. Been a strong force in that sense over the past few seasons. I'm Russ Heltman. He's Dominick Goodman. We'll be back in just a moment on Bearcat Blitz. Bearcat Blitz continues wherever you're getting your podcasts, or maybe you're on YouTube checking out Talking Cats with Russ Heltman, or you're watching us on Valley Sports Ohio. Thank you to everybody, no matter how you are finding the show right here. And if you're finding it on podcast feeds, please subscribe, rate, and review to help us keep growing. I'm Russ Heltman, your All Bearcats reporter. Check us out on allbearcats.com. And he is Dominick Goodman, former UC wide receiver. So, Dom, let's look at the tail of the tape here between Cincinnati and BYU. Cincinnati 0-2 all time against the Cougars. I believe they have roughly a 31-point total point differential in those matchups back in 2015 and 2016. The line was BYU by 3 yesterday, and now it's Cincinnati by 1.5 points, although the Bearcats getting just 32% of the total bets. So what that means is there's been a lot of heavy money, a lot of sharp bettors, a lot of big bets coming in on Cincinnati, who last lost to BYU in 2016, 20-3. So an interesting matchup here. UC travels out west, a little bit banged up, especially in the secondary. We're not sure what's going to happen with Sammy Anderson. It was interesting, Dom, to see the offensive line rotation get expanded a little bit last week. I think that was largely just anticipating this game in my eyes and seeing how many snaps the offensive linemen as a group, that starting group had played up to this point. But you got a team in BYU with Keaton Slovis helming the passing attack. They are really driven by Slovis, and that's about it. They ran for 61 yards total last week against Kansas. Excuse me. No, they didn't. They're averaging 61 yards. I even messed up that crazy stat. They're averaging 61 yards per game, Dom, 128th nationally, and they ran for a total of 9 yards last week. 9 total rushing yards against Kansas in a 38-27 loss. Stop Keaton Slovis, and you largely stop this offense, an offense that is a little bit up, is still missing their projected top running back, a transfer by, I think his name was Jameer Daniels or something. I'll pull it up with the guys that are banged up right now, but they're missing a running back that hasn't really played much this year and was supposed to be their top player there. They're missing one of their top 3 wide receivers potentially. He went down with a head injury in that game, and they're missing one of their starting guards potentially. He suffered an injury in this one, along with top linebacker and a guy named Ben Bywater. He also re-aggravated an injury, and it's not quite known if he's going to be available for Friday. That, Dom, kind of speaks to the reason why so much money has been coming in on the Bearcats.
Oh, man, it sounds like a recipe for disaster for BYU. Football is a brutal sport. You get a lot of injuries, people going down. It's important to have the next man in. But the biggest thing that really caught my eye is just the rushing game. If you don't got a rushing game, shoot. Well, man, you pretty much going to be just depending, like you said, depending on the quarterback.
Pin those ears back, baby. Get after the QB.
Exactly. Like, just send the house and just man it up, bump it. But I see why everybody changed the whole money line, because I would have too, because it just don't make sense why, like, 61 yards on the average, right?
They're averaging 61 yards per game this year rushing, 128th out of 133 teams nationally. And the underlying analytics don't speak to a much better picture. They are 107th in the country in expected points added per carry, and they are 98th in offensive success rate overall, 51st in defensive and rushing success rate. So what that means is they're more consistent running the ball in terms of getting 4 yards on first down or 4 yards on 3rd and 3 to be kind of quote unquote a solid positive plays. But when you look at the EPA per rush, it just speaks to lack of explosive plays. They just do not create really any explosive plays in the running game. And that's a huge thing for a UC team that really hasn't allowed many explosive plays in the running game at all. They've largely come through the air, as we've highlighted over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, this is a game where UC can bounce back. This is a game where they can really show what they made of, make those corrections and improve on them. And this is a game you really can make a comeback on. It's just one of them things, like, I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I've been wrong for the past couple weeks. But at the same time, I'm just going to say this right now. This is a must-win game for the simple reason, momentum leading into the Big 12. You got to get this win. You need this win. So if UC do what they're supposed to do for us, defense continue playing lights out, offense scoring in the red zone, better efficiency on the third downs, and just overall just continue with the rushing game and involve in the pass game.
Yeah, I would be very surprised, Dom, if BYU gets the run game going against a Cincinnati team that's been very stout on that front. They're allowing the 5th best EPA per rush mark in the country defensively against the run, and they're 11th, allowing just 30.1% success rate on the ground. Just 30.1% of opponent runs are getting deemed successful in terms of creating positive expected points on the field. They've been so good analytically against the run. Against the pass, completely different. When you think about 108th overall nationally in EPA per pass, they've been getting shredded through the air. They got shredded to an extent last week by Dylan Gabriel. It wasn't nearly as bad as many projectors. Even I projected the score to be much worse than 20 points given up overall. Up against an EPA per pass offense helmed by Keaton Slovis that's in the back half of the country, 76 overall. So I think the analytics on ESPN are pretty spot on here when they give the Bearcats roughly a 60% chance to win this game. I'm with you, Dom. This is a massive game, and this is a game that I think is going to pivot the team towards bowl status or not. If they don't win this game, it's going to be very difficult to pick up that 6th win down the line at the end of the season here, especially when you think about how good Kansas looks. Kansas, to me, was looking like a very winnable, if not you should be expected to 100% win this game at home. But that offense looks like it can travel. It looks strong. Jaden Daniels looks like the definitive good pick, or at least strong contender as preseason Big 12 offensive player of the year. He's playing just like that at the quarterback position. So I think that aspect of the schedule got a little bit tougher. And this BYU aspect of the schedule, along with Iowa State, got a little bit easier given the offseason happenings and all that stuff, those are the next two opponents for UC with a bye week mixed in. So you're facing a short week here. Then you get a bye week and you welcome Iowa State, I believe, into Nippert Stadium. They have a home game next coming up. Getting this win on the road, albeit against tough circumstances schedule-wise, would open you up to even more just sigh of relief going into the bye week. You can get your rest, and then you can go and attack Iowa State. But as I mentioned, some guys banged up for BYU. Ben Bywater, as I mentioned, re-injured the bad shoulder that he's been working throughout his career against Kansas. Aiden Roberts, the UNLV transfer running back, that's the guy whose name I was trying to figure out. He is expected to miss another week here, so I don't think he's played at all this season in a BYU uniform. Wide receiver Parker Kingston, he's been very solid for this offense. He's the guy that I mentioned may have gone down with a concussion. His status up in the air. He is 10th on the offense right now with a 65.5 overall grade. Has played just 42 snaps, but is a guy that they like to target when they get him on the field. And then you look at final little maybe nail in the coffin here for BYU. Utah State transfer offensive lineman, the guard. I don't think I might butcher this name here, but I'm going to try. Waylon Lapuaho. Waylon Lapuaho. That is like a classic Utah Soen type name right there, a Hawaiian name. He is their vaunted guard, one of the best players on the team offensively, 5th best offensive grade, 69.3 overall, a 78.2 pass blocking grade. That is right there, 3rd best on the team. So banged up guys, Dom. Banged up guys on an offense that has not been able to run the football. And when you take away one of Keaton Slovis's best receivers coming off a game where he had multiple interceptions, they look very vulnerable here. And that's why I'm going to pick the Bearcats in a tight, knock them out, defensive back and forth type of game. It could look ugly once again offensively at points. But when you think about how great that Oklahoma red zone defense was coming into that game versus how good or how much worse this BYU defense is, that's the difference for me. UC cannot continue to statistically, just on average, be a top 25 team in terms of total red zone possessions and rank 118th in touchdown percentage, which is where they are right now, Dom. They're 25th in red zone possessions. They're 118th, scoring touchdowns 47% of the time on those possessions. That starts to regress to the mean here against a team ranked just outside the top 50 in red zone touchdowns allowed on defense. I think they give up a couple more than they would like to in BYU, and UC gets the job done 24-21. What do you got, Dom?
Wow. With that being said, they can move the ball, just got to score in the red zone. So I'm just over here trying to put the score up high. I try to keep it low. But I got a feeling they fixed those problems at practice, came together, got it together, it's starting to gel, and this is the game to do it. I'm gonna go safe 28-14.
28-14. All right, another strong showing from the defense. He's Dominic Goodman. I'm Russ Heltman. That does it for our time on this week's Bearcat Blitz. We have been presented by Bet Online, where the game starts, and make sure to check us out all across every platform throughout the upcoming days and BYU game day weekend. Check us out on Bally Sports Ohio, Talking Cash with Russ Heltman on YouTube, and of course, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all that good stuff. For Dominic Goodman, I'm Russ Heltman. Enjoy the game day weekend, everybody. This is Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network.